Okay. Live in all the places. Thank you. Okay, we did it. All right. Returning to the stream today. Yesterday, came in with a plan of we're going to stream a quick feature to demonstrate all the steps I've got lined up for my coding process with Claude Code, how it works, what I do, the various subagents, everything with that. Ran into a bit of an issue after I got to the guts of the work, so I ended up abandoning ship. I'm going to wait on that feature for quite a while. As I thought about it more and what it really adds to our users, it doesn't add a ton. So got to prioritize things that actually make a difference. So today we're going to do a quick feature, keyword quick. We're going to talk through the whole process that I use, everything that happens here. This is a simple, I think this is the simplest issue that we're trying to tackle. So it is, let me pop open our Road Trip Ninja app. So we're adding filters here. As you can see, we can filter by amenity or minimum rating. We're simply going to filter on whether or not there's a picture with each of the locations. So we already have that count, should be simple, shouldn't need any extra work to actually go get the data. So we're in pretty good shape. That's the intent. But that's why we do this thing. Okay, so first things first. We'll get Claude going back up. The first thing that what I've adopted is whenever I start a new anything, I force clear Claude's context. That was way harder to say than I thought, and I'm pretty proud I got it all out in my first shot. So yes, we force clear Claude's context, so that way we are starting fresh. I found that makes a huge difference because Claude's not trying to think through stuff we talked about a while back. It's not trying to maintain that. So we just start clean and fresh. So definitely make that part of your process. In Claude Code, it's as simple as /clear. Do that, everything starting from scratch. So we are good. Okay. We are working on issue 130, and I'm pretty happy. So what I would normally do, if this issue was a little bit larger or a little bit scary or anything like that, we would ask my product owner sub-agent to go and do some research and expand on the story so that we have total clarity on what it should do, what it shouldn't do, so that way our other sub-agents can go and make things happen. This is straightforward, so I'm not really worried about it. We're going to stick with what we have. This is good enough. So now we're going to ask our other two sub-agents to go make things happen. First, we'll start off with the architect sub-agent. Have that person, not a person, not have that person, have that sub-agent. I think about them like they're people because what I've learned is that when I think like I'm working with a human, I'm more effective at communicating with the AI. Maybe you think that's crazy, maybe you don't, but what I've realized over the past month of working with AI is that all of the things that made me good at building and leading software development teams when they're human is just as important, if not more important, in the AI space. So I just lean on those things and I unfortunately humanize them. I'm sure somebody in the comments will have something to say, will tell me, will call me names or who knows what, but that's okay. That's comments. That's part of the life I live because I choose to publish content. No big deal. So yes, so we will have our architect agent detail out a plan. We'll get that published into the comments of the issue. Then we'll ask the full stack dev agent to come and go build that. Why would we do that? Why would we break that into pieces? Again, when we go back to the value of keeping context small and compact and clear, for every time we're using AI, now we're having each agent only focus on one thing. It doesn't have to think about how am I going to architect it? How am I going to build it? How am I going to test it? You do one thing, you do it well. Let's be great at that. So that's what we're doing here. And Kick always doesn't mute itself. So Kik, if you're out there, Mr. Mrs. Kik, whoever runs Kik, please have the creator dashboard start muted so that way I don't hear myself seconds later as I'm talking. That doesn't do me any good. It helps to see that it's working, but I don't need to hear it. Thank you. Feature request complete. Okay. Let's go into plan mode. Okay. I would like the architect subagent to evaluate GitHub issue number 130. I need it to build a plan for how we can deliver on that request and remain aligned with all of our patterns and practices in Claude.md. If we need to consult any documentation across our tool stack, use the ref MCP server. The final output will be this plan added as a comment to the GitHub issue. Okay, so we'll let it do its thing. So it's going to go off, figure itself out. While we're doing that, we can look at the architect subagent. If these subagents are something new to you, it's something that came out in Claude Code, I think last week, where you can effectively define roles for Claude to operate in. I've seen people have as many as 100. I started with the typical 3 that I think about when I'm building a product team, a product organization: product owner, full stack developer, architect level, usually full stack developer and architect kind of mix. But I wanted to try splitting those out. I am going to add a 4th subagent. What I found is that the testing is not as thorough as I would like. So I'm going to add a testing agent for us to go and make sure that we have all the edge cases really ironed out and in a good space. So I'm looking forward to that. That's a addition I'm going to do probably over the weekend and get that going. Okay. So architect subagent is off doing their thing. We'll put a plan together of how we attack this. Again, this one should be pretty simple because we already have the data coming back. This is just additional filtering on the UI, adding a checkbox probably and passing it through. So I think we're okay. We'll see how it goes. In my Claude Code, in my Claude Markdown file, we have lots of instructions about simple, maintainable, scalable code. So that's why we should be coming back with a plan that delivers on that, but still, we've got to double check it. Again, should be simple. Famous last words. I ran into that last night. Last night I was so excited. I had a feature that we were going to work on, document the whole process. I was going to turn it into a YouTube video. It was going to be silky smooth. And then we ran into reality, and reality disagreed with us. So here we are. I had to do a little digging and find a different issue for us to work on. All right, so architect has built the plan, checked the plans against Claude Markdown file, so we should be in a pretty good spot. Here we go. Okay. All right. Photo count. Yep. Photo count fields are already calculated in location queries using a lateral join. Check. Implementation will follow established filtering pattern. Sorry, I'm not talking. I'm reading through all this to make sure it's good. I know that's not the best stream experience, but okay. All right, this all looks good. Okay, so we should now be adding this. There we go. Okay, it's doing the right thing. Sometimes Claude gets a little eager, and even though I asked it to have the result of the sub agent being adding comments to the issue in GitHub so that we can use the full stack dev sub agent to pick up the work and make it happen, sometimes it just gets off and running and wants to start writing code. Not unlike humans. So if you've ever led a team of engineers, you'll find that, hey, we like building code. So if we get into a position where, hey, we know what we can go build, let's go do it. That's a common problem. Sometimes you got to slow everybody down. And this is one of them. Okay. So that's good. We see in the background, yep, comment's been added. Okay, good. All right, so now we go back into plan mode. Actually, we don't technically need to go into plan mode. Sometimes, so I've been bouncing back and forth on how I want to manage handing off between sub agents. I've had it work a couple times where I can write an initial prompt and that instructs the architect sub agent to go do its work. Once we agree on the plan, it then hands that plan off to the full stack dev sub agent and it takes over. Because historically, once I've been happy with the plan, I just hit go and accept all edits. I don't check in at all. I've had some issues with agents handing off to each other. There's times where it doesn't call the second sub agent. It just goes back to the general agent, which kind of does all of the things. And again, we've talked about the value of having tight scope on who you are and what you're doing. So I've taken to let's manually control the flow until I can get better at automating the flow between the agents. So that's why I'm doing this here. So I'm actually not going to go into plan mode because we have the plan, so we should be good. So we're going to give this a shot here. Using the full stack dev subagent, read through all of the information on GitHub issue number 130 and put the plan described in the comments into place. Make sure your implementation adheres to Claude.md patterns and practices. Use ref MCP if you need any help with our tooling. and we're going to go. So that should just go and make it happen. Again, we've done all the heavy lifting. We've done a couple sets of heavy lifting. We did research up front to build out the base of the GitHub issue. Again, this one was pretty light and easy, so that one wasn't much. Then we did the next level of lifting. Let's go architect how we want to deliver on the requirements that are asked of us. The architect sub-agent went off and did that, put that in the comments, so we should be good now to just let it go. Because historically, once I got to the point where I was happy with the plan in plan mode, I just hit auto accept and it goes. So we're effectively doing the same thing, just with an additional step here. Again, I'm going to work on connecting those dots more effectively so it auto hands things off. But as I said, I've been having a couple issues with it lately, so I just want to be extra sure before I hit that. So what I do, just to kind of keep an eye on things as I'm just making sure that we're delivering on everything that we asked for, is I keep my GitHub app open and I just kind of watch as it publishes the changes. So I give it a bit of a real-time code review that helps me not wait until it's too late, so I can watch as it updates files and be looking at those updates and make sure it makes sense, it aligns with everything that we talked about, because there's nothing worse than letting it run and do work for 5 minutes maybe and then realizing it got off course halfway through. So rather than just sitting here staring at the screen, I actually stare at the changes and kind of run them through in my brain and make sure it all makes sense. So that's what I like to do. I found that to be most effective. So we'll get this out of the way. So that's not blocking the view of what our agent is doing. So that's a good little hack if you're wondering, like, hey, what do I do while the agent's off and running? Just kind of keep your eye on things. I found that to be very effective, and it has helped me catch things a little bit sooner rather than later. Yeah, so it's continuing just make little changes along the way. Okay. We're going along pretty well. This is how last night was supposed to work. Last night was supposed to go like this. But it didn't. Because what fun is that? All right, so it's working on the filtering, which that's where the heavy lifting will be done. One of the things we did over the weekends was we built out a pattern for how we're going to manage filtering, because as you can imagine, when you're building a marketplace type tool like this is, let me shrink this down a little bit. Make sure we're in the right spot here so you guys can see everything appropriately. Building effectively a marketplace, it's important to have good filtering, and filtering can be one of those things that you end up just getting out of control as it just gets unwieldy. So we worked pretty hard over the weekend to get us to a spot where we had a well-defined, well-architected plan and pattern for how we easily add filters, and it pushes all that filtering into the database, makes it easy to manage in the front end so that we can quickly and easily add items to this, because that's going to be important as we work through that. So all right, so it's running tests, linting, all of that jazz. So it should be good. I'm going to look at the filtering. pretty good. Again, this was a pretty simple. One of the things we didn't do, or it's not doing, is it's not writing tests. So we're going to have to check that out. But overall, implementation looks good. Looks like everything that we laid out. It's using all the patterns and practices that we established. Not doing anything crazy, not reinventing the wheel. It's adding a filter just like the rest of the filtering tools that we've created. So Claude, we're figuring things out. I'm pretty happy about this. All right, so it's working on type checks, linting, things like that. Getting everything into a good state. So we should be good to go here in a minute. For anybody that's in the chat, I assume most of you are using Claude Code, since that was in the title or description. So you're coming in seeing, hey, what's this guy doing? How's he using it? I have not used Gemini or any of the other tools. I am intrigued by Warp. So that's one that I'm going to probably try in a little bit. So just looking for what tools folks are using out there in the wild. So drop a comment in chat with whatever tool you're using. Okay. So it's claiming victory. I still manually run all of the things. So I still manually run npm run format. That runs prettier. npm run lint. Josh, why are you doing this? This is in your quality gates. It's defined. Even though it's in the quality gates, it's in the Claude Code. I still have found that it's sometimes it takes a little bit of liberty and says, it's okay. We have a couple of lint warnings, or it's all right. We have 3 or 4 tests that aren't passing. That's okay. Well, it's not okay. So until I'm confident and comfortable that Claude's doing it exactly as I ask every time, I'm going to take the 20 seconds and run all of these things. npm run, test, run, npm run, type check. Okay, cool. So the one thing that it didn't do, that we're just going to have it, we're going to build a plan. I would like the architect sub agent. This is where I want to create. This is where I want to create a testing sub agent. I think there's some real value that can be added doing this. I just don't have one created yet, and I'm not gonna do that on stream because it takes a little bit of work to get there. But that's the thing where we get to this problem is, hey, we didn't add any tests. All the current tests are passing, but we just added a fair amount of code. We should be testing that. So like the architect sub agent to evaluate all of the changes we made and determine what tests should be added. Make sure the testing plan aligns with what we have defined in Claude.md. If you need documentation support, use ref MCP. After we approve the plan, add another comment to the issue with the testing plan. Okay. Yeah, it's that's one of those things that, let me clarify. Testing is one of those items where if you've worked with me or worked for me, you've heard me say that we're not going to manually test things. That's not what we do. What that does not mean is that does not mean that I don't value manual testing brains. I value them greatly. What I don't value is asking a human to click a button 50,000 times. We can automate that. What we need to do is we need to leverage that unique skill, that unique capability to look at a piece of code or a product and say, ooh, I can break that. And I can break that about 5,000 ways. 4,000 of those you never thought of. And here we go. So I want to build that type of capability and capacity into a sub agent to be able to look at the code that we've created and devise a testing plan for us to go make that happen. So I've got a little bit of a gap there with the sub agents that I've built, but I'm going to solve that problem over the weekend and then we'll be off and running. So that's what we're going to do. One thing that I have not done is I have not had multiple agents running in parallel. That's not something I've stress tested. I like to keep my eye on everything that's going on, and I get a little bit uncomfortable with the concept of, hey, we're going to get all these agents running. I don't have them running at the pace and with the quality that I expect to be able to just let them go willy-nilly. I still do like to put some eyes on it. So, okay, we have a good plan. Okay. We haven't done integration tests. What are we doing? Where does that come from? We have never built integration tests, and that is not defined in our Claude.md. The other tests align with our, let's see, double check this plan against Claude.md to make sure we are testing only the items we have determined as useful to test. Refine this plan. Once approved, we will add a comment to the GitHub issue. Okay. Again, so that's one of those things where Claude Code is trying to add value, but it's looking at how it adds value with such narrow scope, because I've purposefully tightened down the scope to only worry about this. So the tests it wanted to add, I can see how that would be something that it might view as adds value, but we've laid out, these are the layers of the application that we want to test. These are the layers that we don't want to test. So it was trying to add additional tests, and if we didn't go through and build out that plan and actually read through the plan, we would have been introducing technical debt. Technical debt isn't always code that doesn't run, code that doesn't matter. It's code that you are now carrying with you that adds little value. And so that's what we try and do, is we try and manage that the tests that we build and maintain add value. Having tests just to have tests to make ourselves feel better does nobody any good. In fact, it makes everything worse, because now you have the potential of you might be fixing tests that don't really test anything, and you're waiting longer for verification that everything works. So it's trying to add more value, but in reality, we've defined, hey, this is the value we care about. Okay, so let's come back with an updated plan. Perfect. Much better. All right, so we'll have the full stack dev sub agent pick up this work, go make it happen, then we'll be in good shape. Okay. I would like the full stack sub agent to read through the latest comments on GitHub issue number 130 and add the tests as detailed in that comment. So again, we can let this auto run because we've laid everything out. So now it's just going to go do the work of creating the tests, validating them, making sure everything's passing. So we don't need to build a plan because we already built a plan. Okay. So what I have been doing while things are happening, we talked about some of the approaches, some of the things that I do as it's doing the work is I keep the GitHub app open so I can just watch changes as they drop in and start to review them and run through them and make sure that they continue to align with the patterns and practices that we've laid out. Also, what I tend to do is this is when I go and I work on the backlog. I go and I lay out, okay, what are the things we're going to build next, making sure those stories are in a good spot. I'm comfortable and confident that we can hand them off to our sub agents and start making a difference. I was talking with a buddy earlier today, and one of the things that has really landed with me is that all the things that make your product development organization great are the same things that are required to work effectively with AI. To work effectively with AI, you have to have clarity on and context of what you are building and what you aren't building. And everything you ever learn from any Scrum Master, Agile Coach, anybody, anything that's thinking about how to optimize work, you want to build small, compartmentalized work items that people can go and knock out that are independent of each other. That remains true. So those same skills that you've built up in your daily work, they port directly to the AI world. It's just who's doing the data entry. It's not another human doing the data entry. It's an application doing that. But feeding that machine, getting really good at that, having a really great product organization still is going to be your path to success. That hasn't changed. And I don't think it ever will. Okay, so it's been adding tests. I'm going to take a peek at some of these tests. almost there. So we have been streaming for 35 minutes. Could I, if it was just me, not talking to anybody, could I knock out this feature in 30 minutes? I think so. I think 30 minutes is fair for this amount of work. This actually is labeled, this is estimated by Claude as extra small and about 1 hour. So I think our total time for a human making this happen versus me streaming, talking through this, and allowing Claude Code to do its work, I think is going to be pretty similar. I think by the time it's all said and done. Now, if I was just doing this without streaming, certainly would be more effective. Be less time waiting as I'm talking and Claude's done. It's waiting for me to respond or do something. But again, that aligns with what I've seen. So if you go back and watch some of my previous streams, there was a study done by some of the folks at Stanford that has shown for enterprise grade software, meaning you're in the tens of thousands of lines of code, for a modern tech stack, which this is TypeScript, that you're going to gain about 20% effectiveness and efficiency. So that's lining up with about what we're seeing today. Thank you for the comment on the shirt. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I buy most of my shirts. If you want a link to where to get this shirt and many like it, most of my wardrobe, I'll paste it in YouTube chat since that's where you're coming from. That's where most of my wardrobe comes from. They have a million great shirts. I'm actually an affiliate. I should have pasted my affiliate link in there, but it's okay. Yeah, it's obscene the number of shirts that I have purchased from there. That's why I'm an affiliate. So, yeah. And they're good, comfortable shirts too. Not only do they look good, but they're comfortable. Sweatshirts are nice. And I say sweatshirts, I don't say hoodie. So usually the younger generation calls them all hoodies. It's a sweatshirt to me. So if I say sweatshirt, you might mentally translate that to hoodie in your brain. But this old guy just calls them sweatshirts. Okay, so this is where I found Claude spends the most time. Claude and humans spend a fair amount of time trying to get the test just right with all of the mocking, everything that goes into that. There is a fair amount of effort put into getting those tests done. So I think we're going to, in the end, be spending equivalent amounts of time building the actual piece of the product to do the work and an equal amount of time implementing the test to validate all that. Again, I've seen that be relatively common in the real world, humans doing the coding, and Claude lives in that same space. So getting tests right is not always straightforward. So Claude has the same problems we have. Claude struggles getting the unit tests right, just like you do. So cut him a little slack. All right, so we're getting them done there. We're knocking them out. This is one thing that I found that I actually dislike about having things run in sub-agent mode is that you get less visual representation of what it's doing. It basically maintains everything in these like 3 to 4 lines. And while that's efficient, I understand it probably works really well if you have multiple agents running at the same time to see that happening. But I have seen in situations like this where Claude is making decisions of, we're going to mark this test as skipped, or it's okay if all the tests aren't passing. We're gonna declare victory. So it makes me a little bit nervous with how this happens. So I do end up doing a fair amount of checking on my end just to make sure everything makes sense. Again, we go back to, even when Claude says it's run all the quality checks, it's run formatting, it's run linting, it's run the type check, it's run the test, I still run them by hand. I found that just makes a difference. I've caught enough things where it's worth taking that, again, 45 seconds to check all those things. Yeah, I'm getting a little nervous here. So the reason why I'm getting nervous is we're continuing to spiral on these tests. And now it's added into this setup, this resize observer. So where is it? Let's see where it's importing that. Yeah. So this is where things are getting a little unnerving. We'll let it run a little bit longer, see if it clears itself up. But we're going to have to. We're going to ask it about that. And that's what I found is that don't always try and figure out what your AI agent is doing. Just ask it, hey, why did you do that? Let's see. It is so YouTube Music Portal. That's a pretty serious name you've got going on there. I do have a series. So if you go to my page, the playlist of Build a Product with Me. So I've got, looks like 15 videos in there. So yeah, it'll be a part of, I do have a series. So if you go to my page, the playlist of Build a Product with Me. So I've got, looks like 15 videos. Yeah. In there. So yeah, it'll be so you can find that there. Yeah, this is going on a little too long here with these tests. How do we want to try and clean this up? See, this is exactly, I jinxed myself. I said we picked a small feature. It'll be easy. We'll just knock some things out. We'll be able to talk through the whole process that I use of building with Claude Code. We don't have to worry about execution. It'll just do its thing. And then we end up in the death spiral of tests. All right, I'm gonna run the test. I want to see what's happening here. Oh boy. All right, let me see here. Okay, that's all. These are tests we should have, so. At some point, I'm gonna have to pull the plug on this. I'm just arguing with myself about when I actually do that. We'll just do it right now. Oh, because it's running in. Is it stopping? No, because it's running in sub-agent mode. I can't kill it unless I want to kill it. Okay, no. I think I got it. Okay. Hey, well, thanks for subscribing. I mean, you can ask questions, and I'll certainly try and talk you through what's going on. But yeah, I was just trying to jump in and knock a feature out, and it backfired. Okay, here we go. Have the architect sub agent evaluate all of the failing tests to determine if we should be testing them. If we should test them, build a plan to get them working. Also, I would like to understand why we added. What did we add that I was uncomfortable with? We had a global resize of observer in setup.ts. Use ref MCP for any documentation support needed to get these tests running. Passing. Think harder on this. Okay, so we landed in the relatively common space of the unit testing death spiral, where you have the feature, it's in good place. You start writing the tests get slightly out of control. Claude was running at this for probably about 10 minutes trying to get a handful of tests running, all important tests as we defined. But it has gotten into this loop where once it starts getting to the test not being able to pass, it just like keeps trying shit. It tries something. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, I'll try this. Oh, I'll try this. I'll try this. And it's not as systematic as I would expect or hope. So there's times like this where I've had to pull the plug and say like, okay, we're starting over. I don't think we're at the starting over spot, but we're in a situation where we need to stop, evaluate what we're doing, rebuild a plan, and then get back after it. Because otherwise, with unit tests, what I found is that Claude will just keep layering bad on top of bad, which means everything just gets worse. And eventually the tests pass, but by the time you get there, you're not really testing what you wanted to test. And it's just to the point where the tests pass because they needed to pass to clear some gate. And so I want to make sure we're not doing that. So let's see how many tests are failing. We had 3 failing before. Okay, we're down to 2, so we're okay. But this is one of those times where if you just get up and get a cup of coffee or a monster like I drink and come back and wait for it to be done without paying attention, the mission will be achieved. But if you look under the covers, you're going to find, ooh, that is not very effective or reassuring or maintainable. So that's exactly where we were. So we're going to hit the pause button, reevaluate, figure out what the right plan is. That'll be good. And we got to get this wrapped up because my boys, I know, are going to be getting hungry. And they're going to be saying, yo, Dad, what are we doing? Okay, good deal. Thank you. Feel free to hit me up with questions. Also, I post a ton of shorts here on YouTube or TikTok or wherever. And feel free to add comments, ask questions. Happy to help out in any way I can. Thanks for hanging out. All right. We made progress here. Also, speaking of progress, I was able to knock out a landing page today. So that way our app has a landing page. I think we're going to get to the point where I might actually launch this sucker. All right, here we go. It believes it has all the answers, building the action plan. So we'll see what Claude has for me. Okay. Huh, interesting. I wonder how we. So it's saying we need this resize observer mock. It's necessary, but why haven't we needed it yet? Okay. Let's go make it happen. I just want to get this. I mean, this is the same problem every developer I've met has had. You feel like you're so close, and then unit tests start arguing with you. We've all been there. We've all had friends who were there. You start to feel bad for them. You jump in, you try and help, trying to get the unit test working because you're pulling your hair out. Why isn't it working? What's going on? This is frustrating. Then you start to question life. Should we even be using tests? Who doesn't love when your webcam just stops working? And our camera works again. Welcome back to working camera. See, this is the kind of commentary that makes me feel way more comfortable with what Claude is doing, that when in sub-agent mode, you lose. So I actually find value in watching it drive these changes. I start to get to the point where I understand if it's getting off course and I can catch it sooner. So Anthropic, if you have any developers that are watching this stream or watching this short or TikTok or whatever it is, I would like to be able to see this level of verbosity in sub-agent mode. It would make me feel better. Maybe I'm the only customer that wants that. Maybe not, but it sure would be nice. Okay, tests are all passing. All right. We did it. Now we hit the question of, did I pull the plug too soon? We had just like minor changes to get those last couple of tests passing. But I pulled the plug, we reevaluated everything. Would we have gotten there as quickly if I hadn't done that? That's the question. We'll never know. It's like in the Matrix when Neo knocks over that vase or whatever it is. And the Oracle asks if he thinks he would have knocked it over if she hadn't said anything. Yeah. We'll never know. Okay. Final quality checks. Build is running. Looks like we're going to be good. Yep. Okay. Again, I'm going to go run them all to make myself feel better. Format. Lint. Tests. Type check. And npm run dev. So we'll just take a peek at it. That's the production. We need localhost. So we want to filter by only show locations with photos. Check. Apply filter. Boom. And that looks right. Way to go. Way to go. Let's also say only items with filters and 4 stars. Boom. Okay. It's almost like our filtering architecture works. Way to go, team. We did it. Okay. Oops. This all looks good. Let's create a branch and PR for this code in GitHub so we can get it properly reviewed. And we'll just let it go. Let's see. Now we're an hour in. It's going to be about the same. So we're putting this feature into place. Claude originally estimated it would take about an hour. We're at an hour and 3 minutes. Interesting. You take that for what it's worth. You decide how you want to interpret that. Did Claude know it was going to struggle with unit tests? Is that why Claude said this was going to take an hour? Also, this just validates everything you've likely ever learned. Don't jinx yourself. Don't say this is going to be easy. Don't say we'll be able to knock this out. We won't have any problems. Our world of software engineering is just too dang complex. There's just no getting around it. And as soon as you tempt the gods, as soon as you tempt fate and say, oh yeah, this is going to be easy, something's going to get you. So, lesson of the day, kids. Be smarter than Josh. Don't do stuff like that. Oh boy. Okay, so we pull request. And over here, we'll see this is all running. This is all doing its thing. Code Rabbit's off and running. Claude is off and running. Copilot is doing this thing. Builds are running, so we're good. Yeah, we're in good shape. We'll see what the boys have to say. We'll see what our 3-headed monster of code reviews says about the changes that we've done. my standard approach is we let all the code reviews happen. I read through them to get some sense of what's going on. I then ask Claude Code, read through all the PR comments. Let's build a plan for how we want to respond to that, then drive changes. So let's see what we have going on. Claude's almost done. Copilot's always the fastest. Doesn't like some of our testing approaches. That's not shocking. It's not shocking that Copilot doesn't like some of what we did in the test because we saw it starting to spin on unit tests. And again, when Claude starts to spin on unit tests, the quality of that code diminishes pretty quickly because it's just like trying stuff to get it just like, please pass, please pass, please pass. It's not as intentional or as effective. So that leads me to believe that there is much less training that has been done on unit testing than traditional development because it's just not as good at building the unit tests. All right, so Claude here, it goes through and it's just praising itself. So the one minor change, transformation could be simplified. I'm actually okay with that. I'm actually okay with that because it's, oh, it wants it to be more explicit. I'm not really worried about that. I don't think that's a game changer. So now we'll just wait on CodeRabbit, see what CodeRabbit has to say. Then we'll be good. But so far, pretty good. I'm not going to get too worried about these type checks in the tests. I'm okay with that. Oh, wait. Oh, no. That is right. See, this is where Claude, specifically in unit tests, likes to get off course. And it couldn't get things to work, so it's just like, we're going to disable this linting rule. So I'm going to change that. Actually, I'm going to wait for CodeRabbit to get done. Once CodeRabbit's done, then we'll worry about this. I won't jump the gun. I tend to do that. It's a problem. Be patient, Josh. Let CodeRabbit do its job. You can do it, buddy. I believe in you. CodeRabbit. Come on, buddy. You can do it. All your buddies have said thumbs up. We're just waiting on you. Okay, it's done now. I know it's done because it popped up here in reviewers. I actually don't want to change that because if it's not true, then it's going to be false. I'm okay with that. I actually like that approach. We'll come back and yeah, I'm not real worried about this. Okay. We're going to merge. I'm okay with it. All right, everybody. We were able to, while streaming, build a feature that Claude Code originally estimated was going to take about an hour. We are at 1 hour and 12 minutes. You take out all of my yapping, and it was probably pretty close about how long it was going to take. So from start to finish, architecting how we're going to build it, building it, putting the unit tests in place, testing it, validating it, getting it pushed up, getting a code reviewed by 3 peers, 4 including myself, and merged. Did it in 1 hour and 12 minutes. So that's not so bad. All right, everybody. I'm out of here. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. I will see you maybe tomorrow.